today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about mansplaining and over-emotionalizing or oversharing feelings. Women share emotions to be heard, but also they want to make sure that the listener understands how the woman, is feeling, or the feeling that's in the room, because women intuitively understand a principle that men don't. And that is that results are created by the emotion that drives them. Welcome to another episode of Rich and Relationship. And today we're going to talk about control or insecurity, mansplaining and emotional oversharing. What are they really? I'm your host, Rich Heller. Welcome. And this is one of my favorite topics. Though if I'm really honest, I didn't really have, you're not going to believe this, mansplaining splained to me until the last few months. My wife came home from work and she said, yeah, I was on a call with this guy and he starts mansplaining to me about mortgages. My wife is super knowledgeable about finances. And I said, what'd you do? She said, I just listened to him. Like, what was I going to do? And that was probably a wise reaction, given that she was the professional in the room and he was paying her, and making him feel insecure might not have been worthwhile. And it really brings up the question, like, what when people emotionally overshare or when people mansplain, where's that coming from? We argue here that any time that we feel better than someone else, we think we know better than someone else, that actually we're feeling insecure. I've learned this lesson the hard way. I can't tell you how many times people have explained to me that when I offer to help without them asking, that it's a form of criticism. They experience it as criticism. When we think we know better, we're basically looking down. So let's leap into this. Josephine, who's 34, writes, when I share my feelings, he launches into a lecture or a fix-it plan. Why can't he just sit with me? I would argue that this isn't actually real. Mansplaining is a lot like this, but this may also be the nature of men. Men have a tendency to want to fix everything and they don't listen very well. That's why we're always pushing for more male softness, more ability to hear and take in emotion. But it could also be mansplaining. Mansplaining would be something like, oh, my dear, you simply don't understand. I think, Josephine, what you're talking about more is happening there more is your partner doesn't know how to handle your emotions and he's uncomfortable with them, so he tries to fix the problem. Mansplaining basically is defined as over-advising or interrupting instead of attuning. I guess this could also be mansplaining. Men interrupt women in mixed gender conversations 33% more than women do men. Check that out. I'm going to say that again. That means that men interrupt women 33% more than women interrupt men. Control or insecurity. Do they do it out of fear? Do they do it because they know the answer? Do they know the answer? They know how to fix the problem? Do they do it because they're terrified by the communication that women use that just doesn't register with their brains? Control mode is, I'll steer this conversation back into my territory, logic and solutions. Insecurity mode might be, if I can't fix this, what value do I bring? Maybe she won't want to be with me anymore. She seems so unhappy. Isn't it my job to make her happy? They might even go together. It might even be, I feel so insecure. Isn't it my job to make her happy? I know. I'll steer this conversation back to my territory, control, and I'll attack it with logic and solutions, and then she'll see my value. I think control and insecurity are flip side of the same coin. When we see someone who's trying to be very controlling, it's because they're very insecure. A guy, Tom, who's 40, writes, when she says we need to talk, it turns into hours of details until I just give in. Is that really connection? We have a resource on the Rich in Relationship website called Committed Listening. If you go to the Rich in Relationship website, go to our free group The Bridge. It's our free relationship group, The Bridge. There's a ton of resources on there, but you need to look up committed listening. So in committed listening, this is where guys learn how to listen without trying to fix. Committed listening is used in confrontation, but in this instance, if your partner comes home and she's sharing something emotional, what she wants is for you to register the emotion. And so what it would look like is you look for one emotion and one fact. So if she comes home and she says, Tom, I was at work and this my boss is such a bitch. You wouldn't believe what she said, that that I was late for work, and that last week I called in sick and I didn't bring in medical excuse, and I didn't even know we're supposed to bring in. I'm scared. I'm upset. I can't believe she did that to me. And Tom, if she goes on and on and on, then you will not have the opportunity to show her that you're listening. So it's fair at that point to say, hey, wait, hold on. I just want to make sure I got this. So it sounds like you're scared and upset because your boss gave you a hard time about being late and about being sick. Did I get that? Don't say, did I get it right? Did I get that? And she'll say, yeah. Or she'll say, no, you totally missed it. Let me explain it again. And you just keep doing that all through the conversation, in chunks of the conversation, fact and a feeling. And you might even add, wow, I know what that feels like. I had a situation like that once myself. That could be really upsetting. That'd be like showing empathy, right? That is what she's looking for. And it does not require you fixing anything. It does not require, the only way you need to prove yourself is to prove that you can hear her. The fact is that women spend 50% more time on relationship talk and maintenance than men. It's just how they're wired. And so if you want to have a partnership that works, you're going to need to step in and do more relationship talk when the opportunity comes. And you're going to notice that a part of you is going to be saying, wait a minute, shouldn't we be fixing this problem? Shouldn't I be showing her boss, or shouldn't I be telling her how to deal with her boss? No, not unless she asks for it. Remember what I said in the beginning, that when we try to fix something without being asked for help, we're basically criticizing. We do not want to be in that position. We want to hear. So is it control or is it insecurity? Control would be, if I keep us in this emotional space, you'll eventually align with me. I'm talking about from the female side. And insecurity might be, if I don't fully explain, I'll be dismissed or abandoned. I actually think that's unfair, though, because truthfully, the way brains that evolve in a genetically female body are wired, they tend to go over the emotional landscape and territory thoroughly in detail, and they connect through doing that. I guess the insecurity comes up when there isn't a sense of connection. And so Tom, as you show that you're connecting, that insecurity on her side will be allayed. So these are basically two sides of the same coin: mansplaining and emotional oversharing. I'm not even sure it's oversharing. They're two sides of the same coin. Mansplaining is, there's a tendency for men to want to fix things. And there's a tendency for brains that evolve in a female body to want to talk about the emotional ecology. I guess when they're taken to an extreme, or when they're driven by insecurity, it becomes mansplaining, or it becomes oversharing. Here's a couple of listeners. One woman, 36, says, why does he shut me down when I just want connection? I just want him to know my feelings. And he says, why does she talk for hours when I already got the point? Going back to the example of Tom, the point is not how to stop the boss from treating his wife that way, but to first get that she feels that way under those circumstances before she gets to, how do I set a boundary for myself with this person? Mansplaining would be defending against insecurity with control via solutions. Oversharing is defending against insecurity with control via emotional sharing. If you notice, when men and women get into a fight, men try and hold up a fact. Needs to be fixed, and this is why. And what a woman will usually do is say, yeah, well, you know what? That's wrong in so many ways. You have been so emotionally abusive to me. Do you remember in 1969 when you did this, and 1983 when you did that, and 2015 when you did this? And they've been married for a long time, obviously. But women will remember multiple incidents that are attached to a specific emotion. And most guys are just like, wait, what? That happened? Are she making things up? The Gottman Institute has a stat that persistent misattunement cycles are among the strongest predictions of relationship dissatisfaction and divorce. Folks, listen to what we're laying down here. This is the difference between a partnership and a divorce. There's a cost to this insecurity that drives control. Joe says, if I just stay quiet, will it keep the peace? And Jean says, if I don't talk it through, won't we just bury things? And the truth is, no, you can't just stay quiet. Or staying quiet will keep limited peace, but eventually it's going to be perceived as stonewalling. And not talking it through will lead to burying things in the long run. We want to make sure that our conversations don't become battles of control, each trying to control the other through our own relational style. Men fixing, mansplaining, women emoting, overly sharing emotions. We want to watch out for resentment building. If one partner feels nagged or the other partner feels dismissed, it's just not going to work. This is going to drive deeper insecurity. And when insecurity deepens, there's the possibility of stepping into these negative traits increases, and the relationship becomes more and more contentious or avoidant. How do I know if he wants me to listen or solve? Asks one listener. How do I know if she's sharing to connect or pressure me? Asks another listener. Well, both of these things are possible. You're going to have to find your way through it. He always wants to solve. Almost never, like for men, the emotional context is less important to be heard and more important to be understood. Men want to explain emotions in terms of where they are going or where they think things should be going or impediments to where they think things are going. Women share emotions to be heard, but also they want to make sure that the listener understands how the woman is feeling, or the children are feeling, or the feeling that's in the room, because women intuitively understand a principle that men don't. And that is that results are created by the emotion that drives them. I'm going to say that again. The results that we get in the world are driven by the emotion that we start with. Yes, it's important that we do certain things to get results, but the emotion is the starting point. Men often fall back on the doing and forget the emotional beginning place. This is why it is so important, guys, that we learn to tune in emotionally, not only to our partners, but also to ourselves. When we go out into the world and do all the right things from a place of emotional discord, what we create is discord. I used to have this personal experience of, God, I'm doing everything right and I never seem to win, was the experience I had at work a lot. Thank God that's not an experience I have here in Rich and Relationship. I feel like my clients are winning and so I'm winning. Such a pleasure. What changed for me was I found my sense of purpose where I can bring my concern, my caring, my love, if you will, to the front burner and use that as the motivator for my actions. That's the key, guys. We need to make sure that every action we take comes from a place of caring, of connection, of love, of intimacy. Women got an edge on us this way. Women, get that if your guy wants to fix things, if he's coming from a place of discomfort, it's going to make you uncomfortable. And so help him connect. If you have a guy in your life who isn't getting this, they don't call me the husband whisperer for nothing. Send him here. Here are some considerations in communication. The first is time boundaries. I'm not suggesting that you put a set time limit on all your conversations, but I am suggesting this. The way the human brain works, we have a certain amount of emotional energy that shows up as patience or determination. It's basically our ability to focus. In the beginning of the day, we have a ton of emotional energy. We're well rested. We've been exercising, We have good emotional energy. At the end of the day, we get tired, get run down, and it gets harder. So, one, be careful when you're having these conversations about problem solving. Number two, guys, you got to get that problem solving means understanding the landscape you need to explore before you can problem solve. And ladies, you need to understand that it isn't just about exploration. You need to go somewhere with it. I think women actually understand this much better than men, honestly, because women have been struggling in a male-dominated society. They get goal orientation and problem solving much better than men get exploration and emotional empathy. So what time of day are you having the conversation? If it's late in the day, if you've both been to work and you're having a deep, involved emotional conversation, and you notice that you don't have a lot of patience, or you notice that you're feeling irritable, you might want to say, hey, I am beat. Could we pick this up tomorrow morning, please? Or something like that. Depending on what time of day it is, you might want to limit how much actual time you spend on it, because the danger is that you're going to hit the end of your emotional ability to stay focused on what's important and start to get reactive or activated. Might start dipping into the insecurity or the fear. You want to look at how you're talking. Also, if you're saying all the right words, I really love you and I want to work this out, the tone is not so good, it might be time to stop. In fact, meta communication, or the tone, is super important. Tone indicates where we are coming from emotionally. Guys have a tendency to want to put the round peg through the square hole, or the square peg through the round hole, whatever it is. And even when they're emotionally wrung, because they just want to solve the problem and fix it. Or women sometimes get so frustrated that they're not being heard, that there isn't an emotional connection, that there isn't empathy, that they'll keep going and going. You both need to check yourselves for your own limits and the limit of your partner. And you can tell a lot by the intensity and the way that each of you are talking. Couples who practice what's called metacommunication, watching the tone, the way that they're talking, report 35% higher satisfaction, says the Journal of Social and Personal Relationship in 2019. Super important. Remember what I said earlier? The emotion that we're coming from is more important than how we're doing things. We could use all the wrong words, but if we're coming from a loving place, the person will get it. We can use all the right words, but if we're coming from a negative place, the person will get it. Brad asks, how do I stop correcting and start connecting? Gwen asks, how do I stay engaged when it feels endless? We're going to do that over. So the question is, how do I stop correcting and start connecting? Or how do I stay engaged? We're going to do that over again. So guys, the question is, how do you stop correcting and start connecting? Ladies, I'm speaking in broad generalizations here because there might be guys who do this and gals who do the other. Ladies, it's about how do you stay engaged and not endlessly looping, meaning making sure that he's getting what you're laying down. If he's not getting what you're laying down, doing the same thing over and over isn't going to get you a different result. So here are some tips. First, look at how are you feeling. Are you feeling a little scared or insecure? If you are, you might want to shift to curiosity. Curiosity is authentically wanting to get what's going on the other side. I'm avoiding that word understand because it's very cerebral and it's a guy thing. You want to get what's happening on the other side. Get with A, what's the emotion they're coming up with? B, if they're going somewhere, where is it they're going, or is it an exploration? Curiosity, in fact, is about exploration. It's not about getting somewhere. If you're solution-oriented, you want to explore so much more. And don't go to solutions until the other person feels that they're ready and it's time. If you're emotionally oriented, once the other person has gotten your emotion, let them know it and move on. Curiosity is the cure to insecurity, and control is a freaking illusion. The only thing we're controlling when we are overly emotional or mansplaining, the only thing that we really control is our sense of our own experience. We don't actually control the conversation, and we certainly don't control the other person. But we have a feeling like, because we're doing something that feels comfortable to us, we've done it many times. It's a neurological pathway that we've gone down many times. It's kind of like driving. Because we're just doing it automatically, we feel more secure and in control. That doesn't mean it's good. And I want to connect this to the next episode, which is we're going to be exploring the kept man and kept woman, because both of these are tools and symptoms of man keeping and woman keeping, which is kind of where we started with in this series. Remember, man keeping? Again, if you need some relationship resources, go to richinrelationship.com and go to our new group, The Bridge, where there's a series of free workshops and tools. And once you go to The Bridge, you will get weekly emails from us with more information on relationships, notifications about our podcasts and video blog, and events that you can go to if you're interested. And you can always email me back and let me know what's working and what isn't. In the meantime, have an amazing day and a fantastic tomorrow.